You're a pretty political guy. You said you're in the 15-yard line. You said that you're not a communist, not a socialist, but you're kind of
riding with Biden.
You're riding with Biden, and that brings me to my point. I saw you do a clip, and respect to you, you went on, I think, a college campus, and you said Joe Biden has been a good president.
Yeah.
Changed my mind. He's done a tremendous job in office. So you kind of credited everything he's doing in Ukraine. You said he's doing a massive work there. The infrastructure bill, child tax credit. He works with both sides, sort of not bipartisanship. And he's kind of cooled down the rhetoric. I think under Trump, obviously the rhetoric was pretty extreme. But his approval ratings are not good, dude. Like, they're not as bad as, I think they're worse than Trump, or they're hovering around Trump, whatever. Like, they're giving a run for each other's money as far as like who's worse, whatever. But he's not doing great, I think most people would say, according to approval ratings. So what grade would you give Biden for his first 2 years in office?
I'm going to give him like an A-.
A-? I
think he's done about all he can do, yeah.
What?
I think that the reason why his approval is so low.
What is happening here?
I think the reason why his approval is so low is, one, was Afghanistan. That was a huge drop for him, which I thought we did about as well as we could. Like, what the fuck are we going to do? Like, it was always going to be a shit show leaving, but fuck, we're out. No Americans dead. Like, damn.
Well, no, it was a shit show leaving. There were
Americans
Americans
that much.
dead.
Wait, how many? Did Americans die? I thought it was just people.
There was some shit that happened there.
Were there Americans dying, or was it just
you have to
Afghanistan
admit that the way that they exited Afghanistan.
How
was
else?
A fucking
How could it have been
disaster.
differently?
Okay, so for example, and I'm not a Kabul airport expert, but
I am.
You should have probably vacated everyone you wanted to get out of there, maintained the airport, and then turned it over to the Taliban. But they were just like, they abandoned the airport. It was a shit show. We all saw that scene of everyone running on the tarmac. It was a disaster.
I mean, I definitely think there were people that were upset that America was leaving, but like it was always coming. Like the timetables had already been negotiated after the round of Doha talks, the agreements. Like Biden had already postponed it one time. Like I think that it feels like the understanding was just that like the part of the people of like that Afghanistani government were just hoping that America would never leave. But I mean, like it was always going to happen. It was always going to be shitty. I mean, you could say like maybe they could try to secure the airport, but then there would probably have just been violence or protest while they tried to secure the airport.
So I mean, we're in agreement that Afghanistan was a disaster. So
no, it wasn't. But we're gone. We're out.
I agree with that.
The violence and everything was relatively
Nobody
low,
wanted to
and
stay
it's
in
finally but
Touché.
we did, but it kept getting pushed off and off and
Okay,
off.
so
and nobody wanted to leave. Even Donald Trump, who was negotiating the timetables, did it after his election. Nobody wanted to be the guy that actually fucking left because everybody knew it was probably going to be a little bit messy.
So
but
you're saying that he has balls for doing it?
Yeah, he actually did it. He could, because what Biden could have done is he could have said, you know what, we're actually thinking about this. We're going to stay for 4 more years just to figure it out. And he could have pushed it off to the next president, but he didn't. He pulled the trigger and we left.
I feel
and
you on
I get
that.
mad props.
The exit was a disaster, but the fact
was
that he
rough.
exited, was ultimately a good thing, net positive. So without Afghanistan, you're saying that he would have been an A+? Because you gave him an A-.
I mean, there's always probably things you could do better. But I mean, like, he's passed like 2 pieces of major legislation at this point. One is the biggest like expenditure of green energy we've ever seen in the history of the United States. The other infrastructure bill was the largest infrastructure bill in the history of the United States. That's impressive, giving only 50 votes in the Senate. That's cool. He seems to be, and he brought like 16 Republican senators over on that infrastructure bill, which was impressive. Like a lot of people thought it couldn't be done, but he managed to do that. I think that his
I don't know if it was that high, but I'm not gonna fact check
okay,
it. But he
maybe
got
it was
passed.
like 13. Okay, my bad. Jamie, pull up the fucking number on Wikipedia. Okay,
Jamie, what is it, Joe Rogan?
Yeah, I don't know if you're gonna fucking fact check me on the exact number of senators. Do you want names and addresses next,
yes.
or like
Lisa Murkowski and Joe Manchin?
Oh, my bad.
Okay.
So he did a good job at that. I thought that he navigated the difficult coronavirus stuff as well as possible. I'm a big fan of like a lot of the stimulus and relief that went out. The United States did, I think, more than almost any other country in the world, except I think maybe Japan might have done per capita higher. But yeah, I think his toning down of the rhetoric, not like insulting people or being crazy, that presidential decorum is back, even if he might be a little bit senile. I think.
Okay, by the way, did you vote for Obama?
The first time I voted for Ron Paul. That was back in 2008.
Yeah.
The second time I think I didn't vote because I was like, fuck politics.
Gotcha.
And then after that I voted for
So you
Hillary.
were not an Obama guy?
I probably just was a little bit disconnected. 2012, I would have probably been like living in Poland or something. I just didn't care much about politics.
Gotcha.
Playing video games, streaming.
And then in 2016, you voted for Hillary?
Yes.
Okay, and then obviously you're not a Trump guy, and now Biden.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, you have to admit that, inflation's kind of out of control. The
but
consumer
what is
price index is out of control. Gas prices are out of control.
What the fuck does Biden do about that?
About what?
How does Biden control inflation and gas prices?
What do you mean? All the money that was printed. all the fucking, the regulation that he's putting out there.
Well, when you say money that was printed,
yeah,
granted, like,
Trump printed a ton of money too.
Yeah,
I'm
Trump
not defending.
did print a ton of money.
This isn't. I'm a pro Biden. I'm anti-Trump.
Here's one of the frustrating things about this. Okay, is that people will get mad at Biden for printing money, but Biden had to print money. Okay, we were in the coronavirus pandemic. If we were going to do lockdowns, now maybe you're post lockdowns, whatever. But if we did do lockdowns, we needed things like the PPP. We needed things like expanded unemployment insurance. That had to happen, or we were going to fucking collapse as a country, and we didn't. The middle class saved more money. The total outlays were so low because so many services closed. Middle class saved an ungodly amount of money and generally made it through unscathed. And people that were collecting unemployment insurance made more money during some of the unemployment shit than they did working, which was generally good. Okay, but the second thing is that Trump, this motherfucker, not only did he have a massive booming economy, during that economy, the Federal Reserve didn't raise interest rates to put the brakes on anything. What the fuck? And he did a huge fucking tax cut bill, which was all done via deficit spending. Why the fuck does he get a pass on that? People are like, oh, Trump, he did tax cuts, cool. He didn't cut any part of the budget of the government, and the Fed kept interest rates at fucking 0% for how fucking long? And now we're at a place where we need more wiggle room on inflation, and guess what happened under Trump? 20% market growth year after year after year, year over year over year. And now that Biden has to spend for the coronavirus pandemic, and now that we've got inflation, it's like, oh, well, what the fuck, Biden? What are you doing? It's like the economy should have been cooling off under Trump. Rates should have risen, but when they talked about it, when Powell talked about it, Trump was literally on Twitter like a fucking crybaby, talking about like, oh, I'm gonna fucking do this, fucking fire this guy, blah, blah, blah. He was so fucking sad, throwing a temper tantrum because people were talking about raising rates then to slow the economy down, and they didn't do it. And then Trump did a massive tax cut, which would pump even more money in the economy, and like now it's Biden's fault. Like,
yeah, what the fuck? And believe me, I'm not a Trump apologist.
And this happens, by the way, this happens time after time after time. Obama comes in office off the heels of Bush fucking destroying the world economy with the whole housing crisis. It wasn't Bush's fault, to be fair, but like, yeah, there's this trend of like Democrat comes in office, has to clean up the fucking pieces of the Republican nightmare that was left there, and then somehow Republicans are always called fiscally responsible, despite the fact that they spend like crazy on overseas wars. They spend like crazy on tax cuts that aren't paired with budget cuts. Bush, like doubled the size of the Department of Education with no child left behind. Like, it's fuck Republicans.
So if you like that clip, click right here to watch another, or if you want to watch the entire Soscast, click right here.